First of all, I have to tell all of you that I'm not at home. If you joined us the previous lectures, you recognize my background is different. I'm in Puglia, south of Italy. In Italy, we're lucky because we ended up locked down a couple of months ago, so we're able to travel around our country. I hope the connection will be stable for the whole lecture. Just in case you have problems, write on the chat and I will try and solve them. So today I'm going to give you a very, very special lecture because it's not just the result of a chronological development of the arts, but it's a quite personal view of how you can tell the history of art, not just about mentioning and dropping dates, names, styles, but focusing on the emotions. How much art depicted or sculpted emotions, how much artists self-wondered, how much self-questioned about how much art can express their own emotions or the emotions of the human beings, and how much emotions changed in the history. We have not felt emotions the same way. What made the ancient Romans fall in love, or the Romantic poets fall in love in the medieval age, for example, was an absolute scandal. What made the ancient Romans laugh today, I don't know if you ever had the chance to read satire or satirical poem, ancient poem, well, we don't laugh so much today. So it means that our emotions, just like our social relationships, changed in the centuries. And the only way we can immediately understand the way they changed is looking at the art pieces, at the artworks, or we can read about them, but with the art, with the images, with the faces, with the features, with the expressions, we know much more about ourselves and about our ancestors. So we start immediately with the art piece that it's a milestone in the history of art told through emotions. And this is the one. I don't know how many of you had the chance to come and visit the Vatican museums. Well, in the octagonal courtyard of the Villa del Belvedere, which is today part of the archaeological section of the Vatican museums, you have this guy. He's Laocoon. Well, the history says that Laocoon in the Iliad, told by Homero, is a priest, basically, who is the only one who said to the Trojan, please do not accept the horse given by the Greeks and thought by Ulysses as a gift to the people of Troy, because it's not safe. But Athena, goddess Athena, who was backing the Greeks, sent from the sea, he asked the god ocean to send from the sea 2 snakes that will kill Laocoon's children. And in this moment, he's trying to save them. So, condemned punished by gods, Laocoon is not trusted by anybody. And we know what happens, how it goes. But here, an anonymous artist, we don't know exactly the author, is trying to show the desperation, the sufferance, the effort he's making to save his children. We are, well, this is a copy, a Roman copy, as you can read in the caption, a later Roman copy of an original that should date back to 2nd century BC, in which there are artists that discovered emotions. So this is in the Hellenistic period, so-called Hellenistic period. This is the first moment in which strong emotions entered the arts and started to be represented by the artists. It is not anymore the time to show the perfection of the human body. It's not anymore the time to show how much gods are emotionless. Perfection is to show the limits of the human beings through their own emotions. And this piece has a beautiful story. In 1506, in Rome, they're digging out a piece of land on the Esquilino Hill, close to where today's Termini station, for those that are familiar with Rome. While digging the earth, the land, they discovered that this piece starts to come out. So they discover first a arm, and then the head, and whatever. The Pope, Julius II, understands, learns, he gets the information that something incredible is coming out, and he sends Michelangelo, that is working for him in the Vatican, for an inspection. So Michelangelo goes there, sees what had come miraculously out of the land, goes back to the Pope and said, Julius II, please, Santità, Holy Father, please buy this piece. Don't this piece allow go somewhere else. He buys for an enormous amount of money, and it's still there. And it was so fascinating for all the artists, starting from Michelangelo, that look, these are just a few selection of the drawings made by incredible artists, Michelangelo, Rubens, Bernini, Pontormo, that made their pilgrimage to Rome in order to copy the Laocoon. Because the way this face features this incredible emotion, which is about desperation and delirium, has not be surpassed by anybody after. So it's a milestone. So it's where the artist started to learn how to let faces express these strong emotions. Well, the same age, 1506, and the same age when the Laocoon was made, there is another incredible ancient piece that became kind of a, not just a model, but a point of reference. Artists couldn't like prevent themselves to copy and get inspiration from. It's this one here, another way to show a very, very ambiguous emotion. This is not dealing with delirium. This is dealing more with desire, the hermaphrodite. I don't know how many of you know the story about the hermaphrodite. Hermaphrodite was not born half a girl and half a boy. He was born as a boy. He was the son of Hermes and Aphrodite. But one day he approaches a lake, a little lake, it's a little spring. And the moment he approaches it, the nymph of this lake falls in love with him. He doesn't want to just, no, she's so in love with him. She feels so much desire that she hugs him and pulls him down the water, underwater. But he doesn't want to kill him. So she asks her father, the god of the lake, to make her love, her desire last forever, and merge the bodies of the two. That's how hermaphrodite becomes, changes, transforms turns into in half a body of a girl and half the body of a man, in order to let this desire live forever. And when the artist, again, maybe Polykletus, but we're not sure, created this sleeping hermaphrodite, look how he made his genitals. I mean, this is an hermaphrodite that is not only desirable, it's also desiring. He's having an erotic dream. And this piece came out of earth in Rome in the early 1600s and got into the collection of a cardinal, Cardinal Scipione Borghese. Yes, the one that created Galleria Borghese in Rome. It was always, shown with the genitals facing the wall. so that nobody would feel the scandal. But there was another piece, another hermaphrodite, part of the collection of the cardinal, that few people know. It maybe for our kind of shyness, it's not being published that much. It's the one you maybe saw for a second. It's this one here, the standing hermaphrodite. That was part of the collection as well of the Cardinal Scipione Borghese, which is another kind of desire. It's expressing the masculine desire, the desire that wants get the possession of a partner, and it was hidden in a cupboard. So the cardinal hid it in a cupboard next to a window, and only the happy few guests would be able to see that. Because it was not the sensuality of desire expressed in this statue, but, as I told you, the desire that becomes obsession, and that leads to the expression of the effort of getting something. So you see how much ambiguous becomes desire. You see how much emotions in the past, and then in the 1600s, the age of Baroque, the age of when we all discover how complicated we are, becomes, again, expressed by the arts, a kind of path, kind of wire that link, thanks to these pieces, different moments of our history. Maybe if they had discovered these pieces in the medieval age, they would have destroyed them. But 1600s was, the 17th century was a century mature enough to understand and appreciate again what in the ancient times had been done. And at the same time, exactly in the parallel path with the expression of desire, delirium continues to be expressed in the 1600s at the same time, and they sometimes merge. This is a bit, well, this is being done at the same period in which the hermaphrodite had been discovered, early 1600s. And again, it's the age of the 1600s, the age of Baroque, and the age of ambiguity. Caravaggio gets commissioned by a cardinal. Huh? It's still difficult to accept the cardinals love this kind of images, but this is how it was working. They would absolutely keep the distance and feel the distance between sensuality, flesh, whatever was part of our the human instinct expressed, and whatever was faith and religion. In this case, this young friend of Caravaggio becomes a model for Cupid, a very, very special Cupid, a Cupid that, thanks to his smile, is basically inviting us, is seducting us, in order to invite us. If you want to keep, sorry, I just in brackets, there are already some questions arriving. If you don't want to forget your questions, you can write them live and I will answer to all of them at the end. So getting back to this, look at how the Caravaggio created this expression. That is it desire? Is it him desiring us? Or is it us that starts desiring him? But of course, the bad is a bad where he's gonna he's about to lay. But not only that, you know what's the title we gave to this painting? Amor vincit omnia. Love wins, conquests everything. It's a quotation of an ancient Roman poem, Latin poem, but in here, it is not immediately understandable how much desire, when it becomes an obsession, makes. You have to look at the details. You have to look at these instruments that are all broken. There are some chords that are missing. There is this violin with the arch that is beneath the chords. So all of these are impossible to be played Because when you are obsessed by desire, I hope you all had this chance and this experience in your life, at least once in your life, there is nothing you can do but following what the desire asks for. And as you can see, Cupid sits on a globe with stars. It's behind his knee. So love can conquer and force any person in the world, even basically leaving them armless. Caravaggio, which I love, as you maybe know, which I've written about, it's a real, exactly like Bernini, whom we're gonna encounter in a minute, a great researcher in the emotions. Again, here, another classical image, another classical iconography, Medusa, the creature that could turn whoever she wanted, or whoever would encounter her sight, into stone. But then Perseus got the task to kill her, and he uses his mirrored shield covering his eyes. Oh, well, he was backing, giving his back to Medusa with the shield. She sees for the first time her eyes mirrored, reflected in the mirror, and she turns herself into stone and dies again. How can a 1600 artist like Caravaggio tell this story? Only by telling the moment. The exact moment in which Medusa is understanding that there's nothing more she can do to save her life. Desperation, delirium. There's nothing you can do when you are under the obsession and the desire for somebody. You see how much desire and delirium can overlap in these pieces? But then Caravaggio goes further. I mean, he's an artist. He's a great artist. So he's not only creating a beautiful and attractive image of the Medusa, but he also gets risks, loves getting risks. So since, how he got the idea or the commission, or the subject of depicting Medusa, and why? Because this piece, if you ever saw it in the Pitti Palace and the Uffizi Gallery, is not a flat piece. It's a shield. It's a proper wooden shield. But if you look at it in front, Caravaggio managed to erase the curve of the shield. He worked on an optical illusion and an optical organization of the image, deforming somehow the face, which is much longer on this side, so that your own eye corrects the image and corrects the curve of the shield and let you see properly this beautiful image of delirium. And then, as you maybe remember, this is self-portrait of Caravaggio. So basically, he's the one that is looking at himself and is about to die, and is expressing his delirium. You see how complicated are these masterpieces. You see how much it's difficult to say, I like it. It's not just a question of liking a piece. It's a question of understanding how deep is the research of the artist. They start, or they get to, emotions, which is the milestone of this research. How had Bernini dealt with these topics? Well, we can speak about many different kind of emotions in front of his sculptures, but maybe we can start with this. Well, if you have the chance to come back to Borghese Gallery as soon as they open our doors again, you will see that there is a kind of a path you can make when you are in front of at least a few pieces by Bernini preserved in this collection. All of them were preserved and bought by Cardinal Scipione Borghese. Okay, so this is the third piece, which is the one where emotion starts to become more complicated. Apollo just approached, just arrived and touched Daphne, the nymph Daphne. Well, Apollo, you maybe remember, Apollo was the most beautiful god. I mean, there was no girl that could basically say no to Apollo. Maybe there was no girl that even wanted to say no to Apollo. But there's only one who dared to do so, Daphne. She was so like refusing him that she started to run, asking her father, Jupiter, to turn her into a laurel, to turn her into, well, first of all, she said, please save me, father. And then she said, the only way you can save me is to turn me into a tree. And she turned herself, well, and she gets into a laurel. Well, again, exactly like Caravaggio made with the Medusa. How did he tell the story? By showing us the moment in which Apollo approached her, Apollo touched her, and she's about to turn into a tree. Look at how her toes gets into roots. Look how the hand of Apollo touches her body that is already turning into a trunk. And if you get to Borghese Gallery, please do not forget to turn around, to go around the sculpture, because Bernini was a real director, movie director. And by the time you turn around, you will see that there is a specific point in which the body of Daphne is not there anymore. It's completely covered by the body of Apollo, because she's turned completely into the laurel. She's turned completely into the tree. So you can really feel the transformation, the ongoing transformation. So the result of the emotions, delirium, desperation for her, and a kind of upset desire that is turning into something different on Apollo's face. The artists in the 17th century were real psychologists, even psychologists far away to be discovered and well, wouldn't be discovered, to get created and analyzed. But again, the idea that our emotions are ongoing experience. We've never stuck into an emotion. Well, where we experience an emotion in a moment, in an instant, but the instant after, this emotion is turned into something different, exactly like Bernini is showing and telling in this culture. The next room, the room right next to the Apollo and Daphne, you've got David by Bernini. You remember? We already had David. We already encountered the David in another lecture, the one now about Michelangelo. But that David, even if you were not there, you know it. I remember I told you, Michelangelo represented David not after his great enterprise, not after killing Goliath, but just any other artist had done before. He represented David the moment he's about to throw the stone. And look at the forehead. Bernini starts from there. It starts from that masterpiece. But first of all, David is not just standing, is occupying the space. He's turning on himself. We are completely involved by his movements, because emotions, they don't involve just our face. They involve our own body, the whole body. And then the face, of course. This is where our emotions are deeply expressed. The same forehead, the forehead that Michelangelo has created, becomes a much deeper detail. on this face. The eyes are much deeper, and the mouth is where you can see the effort of this strong emotion he is seeing. Well, we do believe that David by Bernini is self-portrait. And this is, again, the way an artist could express in the most commendable way emotions, by looking in the way they feel them and they feature them. And they feature them. This is, they say, we don't know, but it's a very interesting hypothesis. This is the expression Bernini was taking while working with a hammer on the same, piece of stone. So it's the effort he was making while working and sculpting his statues. Isn't it absolutely beautiful? Not just beautiful, but isn't it moving? The way this artist was so, let's say, at the same time, ambitious but humble, to open up their emotions and get inspiration from them, even always linking to something traditional. This is a quite unknown piece. It's again by Bernini. These are preserved in the Spanish embassy to the Holy See in Rome. So it's quite difficult to see them. But if you have the chance next time you come to Rome, you can ask for a special visit to the Spanish embassy, which is at Spanish Steps. Two statues, one facing the other, two busts, the blessed soul and the damned soul. Two faces of the same soul. I don't know why he chose a woman for the blessed one and a man for the damned one, but again, it's the very starting point of what's going to happen in the second half of the 1600s. What do artists start to make with emotions in the second half of the 1600s? Well, looking at how much Bernini, Caravaggio, Michelangelo studied these, or Raphael studied these emotions, they started to think that it is time to set emotions into categories, to create a kind of directory of emotions, of the way artists should express emotions. And this is what Charles Lebrun, the artist of the king, the French king, Resole, the Sun King, starts to make with his drawings. These are drawings in which you can see one of the first theories of Charles Lebrun saying emotions make human beings quite similar to animals. Animals and human beings feel the same emotions, and sometimes they express them the same way. And you know where emotions are expressed mostly? You know where is the central part of our body that shows our emotions? Well, you may say, the eyes. No, the eyes are the mirror of our soul. No, it's not the eyes. It's a place which is in between the eyes and the nose. It's this part here, this triangle, that changes whenever we change our emotions. And Bernini, even if he had not read Charles Lebrun theories, was already a word of these theory, because it all happens there. Look how plain is the forehead of the blessed soul, how complicated, how intention is the forehead and the eyes, and the eye brushes of the damned soul. So it starts to become a scientific way of approaching emotions. Well, the 1700s, as you may remember, is the enlightened centuries, where everything that deals with nature and human beings can be classified and can be studied just like any scientific process. Even emotions get involved into this approach. Even art get this way of approaching the expression of emotion. Would you ever say that? Would you ever said that before? Well, we have to get an accurate look at how art developed. And so what happens then in the 1700s? Well, it happens then in the second half of the 1600s, let's say. It happens that artists start using their own faces to create, as I told you, directories of emotions. A self-portrait that would have been done before with a paint, with a brush, or with a painting, as a painter, it becomes the tool, it becomes the excuse to create an emotion. I mean, the image of an emotion. Self-portrait depicts himself as an upset guy, which is even a bit crazy guy. Or, in this case, this is always Pietro Bellotti. This is a prisoner. And as you can see, the desperation of the prisoner, I put you down here, the reference. You see, it has been discovered over a century before, but it was still there. Part of the education of any artist, of each artist, that whenever he had to show the desperation, the delirium, the absolute lack of hope of a prisoner, the lacan comes back to their mind and becomes an alive and contemporary emotion. I love this piece. This is so unknown. I don't know why. I love this piece just because it's a beautiful painting. It's a beautiful boy, but it's also, again, another weird way to make a self-portrait. Well, self-portrait, again, they are the excuse of showing the emotional situation of a human being, of the artist in this case, which is looking at himself in a mirror, and it's in between, feeling the delirium, maybe because he saw him for the first time, I don't know what happened to him, but also the surprise. It's in between, delirium, surprise. It's the way Courbet will approach reality from this very moment onwards. It's going to be the emotion he will feel when he's going to be approaching reality. He's an artist classified in the realist, French realist period, but it's not just looking at reality with the interest of discovery, of inspection, but also get the emotion of how desperate the reality and how much desperation is and delirium is in reality, and in the way he feels it when he paints it. But at the same time, and this is another absolutely unpredictable and fascinating way you should approach the study of emotions in the arts, and not only the arts, the fact that starting from the 1800s, I would say 1800s, emotions become so complicated that the artists start approaching them in a completely different way. I showed you how much emotion, deep emotions, strong emotions have been shown and expressed with stressed faces, but at the same time, love, desperate love, deep love can be represented in this way. What happened to Charles Lebrun theories? What happened to the fact that the forehead must express our emotion? There's nothing like that in Antonio Canova's sculptures. There is mostly the idea that he has to look at the ancient way the Romans were describing love. So it's not a way to merge, as Bernini or Bellotti were doing, antiquities with the contemporary way of expressing emotion. It's just a way to say we have to look at the antiquities and copy them, because this is the only way to reach perfection. Perfection in Antonio Canova is geometry, is to adapt any emotion to the geometrical construction of the figure. I know you may feel I'm getting too academic now, but it's interesting to see how much at the same time there are artists that approach emotions just getting completely involved by the way they're expressed, and artists that approach them, we are in the enlightened century, so with the rational approach of an architect. This is what Canova was doing, adapting the emotions to the creation of a perfect combination, a geometrical, perfect, an architectural combination of bodies. That's why he was not interested at all into Charles Lebrun theories, and he creates emotions with different other kind of like moves. Same age, 1787, Italy. 1781, Germany. Maybe you remember from your school studies, Germany is where Romanticism was born. No? Germany, and sometimes I always ask, how could it be possible? No, we always think of Germans as rational, perfect, and absolutely cold, no, kind of population, and then they came out with Romanticism. Well, firstly, in this incredible painting and renowned painting, the same time when Canova, which was emerged into the Roman art, into the classical iconography, he gets interested into the expression, using again a classical image. I'm sorry, I don't have the reference here, but this lady is kneeling, is laying on a bed, just like Ariadne, a statue of an ancient statue preserved in Rome. Ariadne, who's abandoned on the shore, and then Apollo, Cupid arrives. Bacchus arrives and wakes her up, and then they get married. It's a long story, but anyway, there is again antiquity, but it's not seen with the look, with the sight of an archaeologist. It's seen with the look of a romantic, of an inspector of emotions. And so she is dreaming that little gargoyle, the monster, that is heavy on her breast, on her chest. Now, when we are under the obsession, under a nightmare, under a preoccupation, but also delirium, this is the way where we feel heavy, the weight. But also, she's visited by a horse coming out of the curtains. A horse? Why a horse? Maybe some of you know, but it's about the name of that horse. This is not a horse. This is a mare, so a she-horse. And this mare is coming at night, nightmare. Again, a little joke, but the way this artists were really trying to get the images of our emotions, not only the expression of the face, but other details that can enrich the story, the story and the emotion itself. A few years later, we're back to Italy, and the classical way of is describing emotions get in fashion again, but in a different way. Well, in this case, we've got IIC telling the story of the actual story of Laocoon, and of course, he couldn't but use that iconography. Ancient iconography is so famous for already 3 centuries, but it's a different. There's a different purpose behind these stories. And you can get this purpose if we get to these other piece. Well, this is a piece. I'm sorry. I had prepared some polls, so I don't know if you got these polls. Maybe you got, but they didn't get any results. But anyway, there is also a poll about this, and I didn't call the polls. Sorry, I'm sorry, Kylie. Maybe I forgot to call them, and we didn't get them out. But anyway. What's this kiss for this for this couple? Is their first kiss? Is their last kiss? I mean, I give you some minutes to do to get the answer. But again, here there is a beautiful expression of desire. This young boy is absolutely desiring this girl. And he gently set his lips on hers. He gently touches her cheeks, and she absolutely abandoned in front of him. But you have to get and to see other details, because IIC is a romantic. Their last kiss. Most of you said their last kiss. I'm going to tell you the story. You are right. This kiss is not like any other kiss, even if we may think so. First of all, the colors this couple are dressing. He's dressed in a red trousers. Well, the shirt you cannot see from this image, but it's green. And part of the dress of the girl is white. There's another version of the same image in which she's completely dressed in white. It's the color of the Italian flag. And also the light blue is part of our national colors, because it was part of the flag of the royal family, the age, the Savoia family. So this is not just a painting that tells about an emotion and a beautiful love affair. It's a political painting. And the way you get the confirmation of this is the fact, the reason, I mean, it's looking at the left foot of the boy. He's stepping on the step because he's about to leave. And there's somebody that is waiting for him. It's the shadow that you see down bottom left of your screen. It's somebody waiting for him under that arch. It's his companion of battles. He is not a lover. He's a hero. He's a hero. He's a patriot. And this is their last kiss. Well, it's what can be their last kiss. They don't know if they're going to meet again after the battle, after the national battle to make a unified country. This is an icon of the Risorgimento period, which means an icon of how much youngsters can feel emotions, both can feel love, can feel desire, both for their partners and their country. It's a way to overlap the two desires. The love desire becomes the political desire, for the patriot desire. Isn't it absolutely deep I mean, moving? I have to say, it's really, really moving. I don't have other words to describe the way IIC managed to merge these two parts of our, not only of our soul, of our history in that age. Getting further to the 20th century, so it's the last part of this lecture, all the story of this, let's say, emotions that are messing up century by century, decade by decade, gets some more tools. In 1905, but his essays, his researches dates back 1880s, Sigmund Freud starts showing how deep, how complicated, how complex is the way we feel emotions. And he starts describing our inner world. Artists have more tools to know about emotions and also to describe them with their images. The keys that had always been a keys of two persons that have their personal story becomes a keys in which these two figures merge one into the other. It's not just the way their faces, no, their cheeks, the lips gets closer and closer, but it's in the way how Klimt let them become part of nature. The love they feel is the same love, is the same emotion that lets nature grow. Whereas René Magritte approaches a different moment of a love affair, a different moment of our relation. It's not the love that we feel at the beginning. It's not the love that we feel at the peak of our relationship, but it's the love we feel sometimes at the end of our relationships. I'm sure none of you is living this situation at the moment, but maybe some of you lived this moment in which you give a kiss just because you're used to that. You give a kiss in the morning while your partner is still wearing the home like a shirt, but you're already prepared to go to the office. You've got your suitcase, your bag on a hand. You give this kiss in front of your door, and then you leave for your day. It's just a move. It's just a gesture, but the two does not know each other anymore. They don't even look at their eyes properly. They don't recognize themselves. They keep themselves one to each other. Again, it's an icon. It's an icon of that perfectly describes how desire changes sometimes in a couple relationships, any kind of couple. So complicated, so complex that artists start describing and studying emotions, in this case delirium, transforming, changing even the faces, the features. And we made this painting an icon of delirium because even if I should say, Munch had completely changed or forgot the features, or completely forgotten the features of a human being. But nevertheless, we can't really see what kind of emotion is feeling. There is another poll about this. Why is the landscape in the screen red? Because it's sunset, because it's a nightmare, because Munch ran out of blue. Well, here you really understand how much freedom artists had got at the end of the 1800s to manipulate iconographies and colors in order just to express an emotion. There's not a story. There's not a mythological reference. It's just a moment that Munch described with his own words. And I'm going to read them for you. I was walking along a road one evening. On one side lay the city, and below me was the fjord. The sunset went down. The clouds were stained red, as if with blood. I felt as though the whole of nature was screaming. It seemed as though I could hear a scream. I painted the picture, painting the clouds like real blood. The colors screamed. And this is a perfect link to what's going to happen in the second part of the 1900s. Well, even in the like second decades, let's say, of the 1900s, when artists started to use just colors in the abstract art to create emotions. This experience, this image by Munch sets the path. Of course, it's because of a nightmare, but also because it's a sunset. Well, it's the color of the sunset that turns into an emotion, that enhances the emotion he's feeling. And in order to underline that, Munch sets those two figures at the bottom of the bridge. Because if you see, those two figures are perfectly proportioned, are perfect in a perfect perspective. If you follow with your eye the perspective of the fence, you reach those two figures and they are perfectly like geometric and architectural organized in this figure. Whereas the screamer is not following the geometrical perspective of this piece. He's went out of any rule in order to make the scream more powerful. We almost end up with Balla because I added a couple of images that were not like expected. Balla is an Italian artist. He's in between, let's say. He's in between the post-impressionist experience. He started with a divisionist, a pointillist style, and then he ended up becoming one of the most important futurist artists. But at the very beginning, he was really exploring the emotions. Again, another self-portrait that he entitled Self-Grimace, because again, he was really loving express emotions with his face, with the features. But I want to focus on this image, which is the insane lady, La Pazza in Italian, that has a story. A beautiful story, let's say. Giacomo Balla used to have a studio, an atelier facing the Borghese garden, Villa Borghese, Borghese Park. Okay, and as you can see from the background of this painting, it's summertime. It is when in August, like today, Borghese garden is completely yellow. The nature is completely burned. So since it's hot, he always keeps the window of his studio, the atelier, open. And there's a lady that lives right next door that every day passes, not many times, in front of his door. Sometimes she stops in front of the doorway, and she says with his gesture, "Shh, keep silent. The baby is sleeping." Of course, she had no baby. There was no baby. She lost her baby in an abortion. And after that event, she became completely crazy. And this lady attracted the attention of Giacomo Balla, that wanted to fix this moment with this body, which is not expressing the actual delirium she was feeling, but she's basically locked, stuck in the position this delirium led her to. It's not a human being anymore, it's a sculpture. It's a stuck figure that with the details, and well, you cannot see it from here, but she's got she's got 6 fingers. I mean, it's difficult to see from this era, but she had 6 fingers because she's not a real body. She's a sculpture. It's a body that lost control. It's a human being that lost control over her body and expresses, nevertheless, this emotion with her body. emotions get so strong, can get so strong that we lose control over our body. And this is what happens here, and also what Picasso wanted to express in this figure, where you really see how much faces, expressions are important to express emotions, where fear and delirium are the result of the violence. Maybe you remember that this Guernica had been painted by Pablo Picasso right after the bombing of a city in the north of Spain. And this emotion, this disruption, that is again expressing this delirium, led me this morning to this. This is how Villa sur Soc in Beirut shows features this morning. Okay, this is how much the violence, the insane human beings can get to consequences that we should really try and prevent as much as we can. Art can be the expression of emotions, but also sometimes a victim of our uncontrolled emotions. Thank you very much for listening. So Kylie, if you want to get back visible. Sorry for not calling up the polls. I'm sorry, I forgot.
I was waiting for my cues to know when I was meant to launch them.
I'm sorry, I completely forgot.
That's okay.
Okay.
So we have a few questions here and some comments from people. So thank you. Before Costantino starts to answer, I'll just say a quick thank you to Costantino, because this was really fascinating talk. And I think you'll see that a lot of the comments were very enthusiastic. So I'm going to turn my video off so that I'm not up, and you can answer some of the questions that have come up in the Q&A. Can you see them, Costantino?
Yes, so Rosaria Zaro is asking, I was wondering why the church was so interesting in the art that expressed desire and delirium, and yet they hid these pieces away. Well, I have to say, Rosaria, that when the church, with second so the cardinals and popes, commissioned pieces about desire and delirium, they were not hiding them at all. I mean, they were absolutely familiar with our basic instinct, I would say. But of course, they expressed them, they loved to see them filtered by the ancient iconography. So you would never see an orgasm painted in the 1500s, but you would see it as a result of a mythological story, a mythological anecdote. If you go to Mantova and you get to the Psyche room at the Palazzo Te, you would see Jupiter sleeping with the Olympiade, and I mean, they are absolutely having an erotic experience, but it's an ancient story. So this is how they would justify, but they would make it visible. Then, of course, as I told you at the very beginning of this lecture, the way human beings and society approaches emotion changes, and there is a moment in which they don't want to see them anymore. So that is the moment they hide them. If you even remember how they hid the genitals in the Last Judgment by Michelangelo. But usually they would really deal well with them. Okay, Rose Colombo informed us that she's got the kiss by Clint at home. Then Anna Mema, thank you for enlightening us with the background. Okay, thank you. Okay, Okay, Greg Naimo. I don't know if they're all familiar with Italian, but he remembers us that the Italian flag derived from Terzina, from some 3 lines by Dante when he meets Beatrice, maybe. Then we have the chat. Maybe there are some questions in the chat. Okay. No, there are only compliments. Thank you very much. You really are a fantastic audience. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Costantino. It's been wonderful, really.
I think we should tell that this lecture has been recorded.
Yes.
No, it's going to be available, no?
Yes, and they will be able to find it on the YouTube channel of IIC Melbourne, and that information will come out to them in the email that comes out for, as a follow-up email. So people will be able to find that information.
Okay.
There.
So again, thank you very much.
Okay.
Have a safe lockdown and a safe August. But I mean, there's a moment in which it's over. So you only have to be patient. Okay. Again, thank you to the Cultural Institutes, both in Melbourne and Sydney, and I hope to see you soon, quite soon, even in reality, back to Australia. Thank you again. Ciao.
Thank you, Costantino. Ciao.
Ciao, 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 ciao. Thank you.